loud, I hope. Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Perfect. Thanks, Diana and John. So I just like to actually welcome all of our Rotarians and guests to our Saturday meeting. I think this is the last Saturday in October, and we're going to finish shortly. Can we see, John, can I ask you to be our Sarge for today because Howard is not around? So I'd like you to just introduce our guests. I mean, Martin will get a different introduction, but all of the persons who are joining us for the first time, could you just ask them to introduce themselves and which club they're from, please?
Well, I think you did that very well, but I will follow up with Joe.
Yeah, we want to know where everyone is from.
Introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Roth, Rotary Club of Weston, District 6990.
Thank you. Welcome
Thank you.
today. Also, Marcy.
Marcy Ullum from District 6990, and I'm from the Rotary Club of Miami Brickell, probably the youngest Rotary Club in the district. So not only in terms of the number of years that we've been in existence, but also I'm much older than the average age. Let me just say that. Our average age is in our 30s now.
Wow, excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And Liz Goggins, I've seen you before. You've been with us. How are things in St. Croix?
Things are getting a little bit better.
Slow bandwidth.
Power poles are getting put up all over, which is wonderful. Don't have much power yet, though, but it's starting. But I think everybody's getting generators because at night I can slowly, we're getting there slowly and surely. One of the things, especially if you drive a Mini Cooper with low profile tires, is the roads are getting all torn up because of the water and the heavy truck. So it's a new issue for me, but that's okay. We'll live with that if we get power.
Yeah. Right. I understand that the Generac people sent a bunch of Generac technicians to St. Croix. Would you see one? Would you send them over to St. John, please?
I will.
All right. I think
my landlord doesn't have a Generac, so I'm not having that issue. But I know a few people with them,
Thanks. Okay, I think that covers. We have our club members, Diana White, past district governor Diana White, past president Roger White, past president Dennis Stockman, formerly of St. Thomas, now of Venice, Florida, Brent Leardom from the Big Island. Well, downtown or whatever for us in St. John. It's in St. Thomas. Amaryllis, oh, blessed to see Amaryllis. And she's in Puerto Rico. Struggling. Oh, you're there twice, Amaryllis. Love it. Ellie Gonaives is Ellie is in Haiti. Ellie has managed to get a connectivity this morning. Whoa, another Virginian has just popped up. Paul Armory, immediate past president of our club, and past assistant governor Dawn Johnson by phone. Dawn is currently in Cincinnati, has spent a lot of years in Haiti. Please, Madam President, take over.
And Wayne.
And we have Wayne.
Wayne, John.
Oh, Wayne. Hi, Wayne. Yes, we saw Wayne. Sorry. All right. I'm just going to hand over to Roger to introduce our guest speaker, Martin. Roger, over to you.
Okay. Yes, thank you, President Leslie. Good morning, everyone.
We're not hearing you.
Oh, I don't. Can you hear me?
All right. So some housekeeping details for everyone. Can everyone put themselves on mute, please? Thank you.
Okay.
I can mute you if you.
All right. Good morning, President Leslie, fellow Rotarians. It's my great pleasure to introduce President Martin. Martin has just turned 22 years of age in April this year and is believed to be the youngest serving Rotary president in the world and among the youngest in Rotary's 112-year history. Martin was born in Tokoroa in the North Island of New Zealand. He's the son of a racehorse trainer and grew up nearby in Cambridge, New Zealand, which I discovered this morning has the unofficial title of the Home of Champions because of its success in raising not only Olympic champions but international racing, horse racing. He moved to the UK permanently in 2012. He currently lives in Oldham, England, splitting his time between working in the customer services at the Manchester Piccadilly Waitrose branch, which is a major supermarket chain here in the UK, as well as studying for an open university degree in economics and mathematical sciences and setting up his first company, World Cultures Festival. He campaigns in local politics and is, of course, helping his Rotary Club, the wonderfully named Manchester Trailblazers. So welcome, President Martin, and we really look forward to hearing what you have to tell us about your successes. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to your meeting today. This is my first time as a speaker, so if I'm a little bit rusty, please do give me some advice. I wanted to talk a little bit just about myself, the club, and I've been asked to speak about how Rotary can be more relevant to young people. I've written a little thing here, so I'm just going to read off that as we go. It's a real privilege to be here today. I'm actually here in Scarborough in the UK at our district conference. We're District 1285. And it's a big focus in Rotary at the moment to sort of focus on youth and try and secure its future. So a little bit about myself and mainly my childhood. I was born in Tokoroa, New Zealand, a declining town that relies on the forestry industry. It's one of a handful of towns where the majority of people are either native Maori or Cook Islanders. So the first time and probably the only time in my life I was in the minority. But no matter what your ethnic background, it's a place where being poor is the norm. I spent half my childhood between New Zealand and the UK, lots of different schools and different areas. As my dad, like I said, was a racehorse trainer, tried to find somewhere he enjoyed working, but ultimately he liked working for himself. And that only really happens in New Zealand just because of the industry. Doing that meant a lot of sacrifices. There was no reliable income stream in the family. It changed on a month-to-month basis, and whatever little money we had was usually spent on feeding the horses rather than feeding the family, just so they were strong enough to race and bring in some income. But having little money meant that we had to sort of be ingenuitive, and anything we needed, we had to build or grow ourselves. So I learned how to grow vegetables, build an orchard, repair a house, and I was very much having a hands-on childhood. So whilst we were cash poor, I did have a wealth of experience. I got to travel the country, meet interesting people, and most of all, sort of relevantly, work with people that are a lot older than me. And I think that's molded the sort of person I am today. Today, I want to try and fix things in a sense and get people out of poverty, both relative poverty like I was in and absolute poverty. And I think Rotary is an amazing sort of organization to try and do that. What led me into Rotary? I first heard about it at school, where my head boy and deputy head girl went on a youth exchange trip to Brazil for a few weeks. They came back and said how amazing it was and the experiences they had. And so from very sort of early on, I had a positive outlook on Rotary. I then finished school, came to the UK for Christmas and never went home. So I've been here ever since in 2012. And after getting a job in Manchester and settling in, I realized that I didn't really know anyone here and was just waking up, going to work and then coming home. So I looked up Rotary again and sort of see what it was actually about more than just the youth exchange, and found some amazing projects and different things across the globe that were really exciting. So I got in contact with, I think, the district governor and their membership team, and they sort of suggested me to manage the Trailblazers. I went for a few meetings and I thought it was really good what they were doing, and tried to invest my time in that. I think I joined after about 3 meetings. So our club, Manchester Trailblazers, was chartered in 2013 after around 2 years of discussions with members at the Rotary Club of Manchester, our mother club. Our founding members found it a bit boring. They couldn't meet every lunchtime for an hour every week, and sort of found the strictness of traditions very discouraging. So they formed their own club in 2013, meeting every fortnightly instead of every week, with meetings directly after work at about 6:30. We had a focus on sort of having fun as well as doing good, and a lot of the fundraising efforts early on were focused around dinner events and parties and things that would go well on a Thursday or Friday night out. What helps us stand out as a club is our average age. It's significantly lower than the UK average. It's about 45 at the moment compared to about 74 for the UK. This is a big advantage when attracting new members to the club. It means that there's always someone in the club that's a close age to a potential member, and that helps build a good bond and good fellowship. We operate a flexible membership scheme as well. It's a bit different to some clubs, where sort of a bit like the rise of subscription-based companies like Netflix and Spotify, and even your daily newspaper now, where you pay a monthly amount for unlimited access. We sort of emulate this with a £10 membership fee rather than an all-up annual fee. It's just £10, and people can come as little or as often as they like to try and fit their schedule. We do have a sit-down meal, and they just sort of pay for that when they do attend. And it just sort of helps make sure that people don't get tied down if they can't, and just sort of come in when they can. Since I joined the club, we undertook a visioning process to look at how we can improve our club, the barriers that people face to joining, and what we can do to sort of help break down those barriers. We took a more hands-on approach and tried to be more visible in the community, especially with our service efforts. We still do the fundraising events and dinners, which have been some of our most successful, but we tried to push for like bucket collections, sponsored runs, meal packing, Rotary shoebox scheme, things like that, where we're out in the community doing things. We've got a long way to go on that, but we are sort of slowly improving. Our major project is Wow Water, which is a project in Ghana building pipelines to connect small villages to the mains water supply network. It's pretty high cost and labor intensive, but we have nearly finished our fundraising for that. And we're hiring all sort of local people in the area to get that done, so sort of investing in their community. And yes, we're doing a lot more to try and be more attractive as a club. And I think that sort of ties into the point of how Rotary can be relevant to young people. I've not sort of wrote as much on this bit here because I wanted to sort of have a discussion with you about that as well. But I think Diana asked me the right question here, is like, how can Rotary be more relevant to young people, rather than asking how we can get more young people into Rotary? And it is a bit difficult. Like it is hard for Rotary to be relevant to young people when we have such a high sort of average age. I know I can sort of speak from what I've observed in my own district, but most clubs are still centered around meetings which range from 1 to 2 hours and at different times of the day. They're varying costs, but on average around £50 a month with meals. Younger generation are facing increasing living costs and falling wages, and they don't have the finances or the time to meet for 2 hours, especially on a weekly basis. So a lot of them are working hard just sort of to get by and find their spare time very precious. People are willing to give up some of this time, but only if it's worthwhile and effective. They don't want to be tied down for a weekly meeting that's not beneficial to the community. They want sort of every minute to be worthwhile. No 2 weeks of mine are ever the same, and I do struggle to make it to some meetings, and I think having e-clubs like yourself actually go quite a long way to making it like access anywhere, anytime, and that really does help, and I'm finding it quite good just meeting today, so it fits in well with my schedule. But one thing that we can't really overlook is Rotaract, and that's sort of my main point I want to make, is how beneficial Rotaract can be to Rotary. It should be our major source of new Rotarians, but at the moment it barely makes it into the statistics. I would personally put all our resources into building Rotaract clubs. I hadn't heard of Rotaract until I joined Rotary, and that's got to change. Young people are willing to serve, but we just sort of have to enable them and make it easy for that to happen. So what are some of the challenges? First, for me, is a lot of clubs can be unwelcoming to young people. They might have a format that just doesn't work for them, and that has been the case in our local area. So trying to get them to build a new Rotaract club doesn't always work out. One thing that has worked in our area and we're doing now is one of our Rotaract clubs is actually helping to build another Rotaract club from one university to another university. And that makes it a lot easier, where they know what their issues are and their time commitments, because they're quite similar ages. And that just really helps sort of build that link and more understanding on forming new clubs. But let's assume that we've got that all works. We get Rotaract to build some new clubs. We've got all these new Rotaract members out there willing to join Rotary. When looking at what the pathways are at the moment to sort of bring Rotaractors into Rotary, it's very difficult, or there might not be any. I've actually received quite a few letters after sort of the claim to fame has gone out around the world that I'm the youngest president, from Rotaractors that have tried to join Rotary clubs and either being turned down or just outright being pushed aside because they're not at the right age yet, or the Rotary club doesn't find them appropriate to their club. And that's quite disheartening to see. And my advice to them is just to either start your own club or look at like forming an e-club, or finding an e-club that they can join. We also need Rotary clubs that hit the 30s to 50s age bracket, so that for those Rotaractors that want to join Rotary, there is a club that's there at a similar age to when they will be sort of transitioning, and joint projects around that age can sort of help build that pathway. And the last sort of challenge that might be hit there is just money. Essentially, it's a cost. In our area, Rotaractors pay £10 a year for Rotary, but like at our club, it's £10 a month, and that can be still quite a big change and a big jump when work around the age of 30 might be coming a lot more increase, or might not be as secure. So I think there needs to be some sort of medium range there where we can make a financial transition between Rotaract and Rotary to sort of push for that. But e-clubs, these new coffee shop, pub clubs as well, are a big help, and they can help bring the costs down. So in conclusion, my message is pretty simple: help foster Rotaract, and we will reap the rewards later as an organization.
Well, thank you, Martin. It's inspirational. I got into Rotary very late in life, but I have two questions for you.
Yep.
I guess one is that you say that your primary focus is in creating Rotaract and making Rotaract a more known, that people of that age would hear about it and want to join. Why did you think that you will be more effective as a Rotarian than as a Rotaractor?
I'm not sure why. Like I've actually said to our Rotaract club, can I join Rotaract as well? Because I think that will help with the sort of people that want to transition, but also if I can find out more about Rotaract, then I can sort of help that way. But I'm letting Rotaractors do their thing, and they can sort of drive it. I just want to help them sort of with in any way we can sort of support them. I don't think being a Rotarian sort of gives me any more of a insight on how to do it. But
okay, and my last is irrelevant to Rotary. It is Man U or Man City?
Oh, so I'm not a big football fan. I've not chosen. I had a bedspread back when I was about 14 for Man United, but that's my only only support I've ever sort of thrown behind one of the teams.
Okay. Anyway, surely there are pertinent questions to be asked. Could you raise your hand, please? Roger, I've unmute you.
Yes, thank you, John. Martin, excellent, thank you. First of all, I see the final whistle just blew. Manchester United beat Spurs 1-0. Martin, yeah, going back to Rotaract, I think one of the things that Diana and I have observed in our brief time back in the UK and visiting clubs is, first of all, that Rotaract, as you identified, is very weak in the UK. Yeah. And that the Rotary clubs that have them don't really support them very well and tend, in my judgment, to use them as, because the Rotary clubs tend to be older people, they tend to, when they want the chairs moved, they ask the Rotaractors to come and do it rather than being mentors and guiding them on. That seems to be a UK issue. I mean, certainly in our district, Rotaract is very strong. We have some really energetic and vibrant Rotaract clubs, and it's been a surprise to Diana and I that the UK is very poor at that. That's just a comment. My question on the Rotaract, though, you mentioned university. Is that where the Rotaractors are, or are there any community-based Rotaract clubs that you're aware of? Because in our experience, Rotaract clubs based in universities tend to sort of be feast or famine, because the people pass through the time in university, they then go out, and unless they're caught by another Rotaract club, they're lost to the cause, and then you end up with maybe a couple of years of weakness, followed by some more energetic Rotaractors who raise it up again, but it's not consistent. But community clubs tend to be better at that. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think there should be ones that are community-based, especially locally. They have been based in the university. I don't think they've had any problems with being weak or anything between year to year. They've sort of held their numbers quite well, and they're actually growing year to year, which is good, because, like you said, that people do pass through university and move on. And I think Rotary can have sort of a piece there to sort of help Rotaractors transition to another Rotaract club when they do move. And that's helping spread Rotary and Rotaract generically. But yes, they do need to sort of look at community-based ones, especially, like I said, the 25 to 30 age range where most people won't be at a university. They really need to tap into that. Like, our average working age in Manchester is 27. There's potential there to have multiple Rotaract clubs. And like we don't find that we're competing for the same people between the Rotaract club and our Rotary club. Our aim is still 30 to 50s. It just happens to be that we've got a few members under 30 because Rotaract isn't seen as a community sort of age group at the moment. I know that's something they're looking at to address and try and bring in a few more professionals after leaving university to strengthen it. And that's something we'll have to look at. And I didn't realize how, and I've not looked into too much how big Rotaract is around the world. I knew it was stronger outside the UK, but it's still, even just looking at the statistics, that the amount of conversions from Rotaract to Rotary is still very small. So there needs to be some work there.
Leslie, and then Amaryllis. Please, Leslie, go ahead. I'll unmute you.
Yes, thank you. Martin, thank you so much for your talk this morning. I really appreciate it. It's very inspiring. I was a Rotaractor myself, and I just want to find out from you, in today's world, what are the major complaints from Rotaractors as to why they do not want to join a Rotary club?
Yes, I've not had too many about why they don't want to join, but when they are, it is usually down to time and cost.
Okay.
This has been a big thing in our area, because our district, with falling membership, our membership fees are going up. And so it just becomes a bigger challenge for younger people to join Rotary, especially when you add in the meal costs. Our club's somewhere between what they envision of as new Rotary clubs and traditional clubs. We still have an evening meal. but it does add up. And so, yeah, I think the biggest one would be cost. And then,
Okay, if someone is trying to calm their pet.
Yes.
I'm not muted, so we're everything. But Martin, so it's not the treatment of other Rotarians towards Rotaractors. It comes down to the cost.
Yeah, like Rotaractors want to join Rotary and they might be turned away. I just don't think there's not many cases that I've found where they don't want to join Rotary. It's that they want to join Rotary, but they've got barriers there, whether it might be your local Rotary club's not as nice as they should be, or there might just be financial barriers there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Amaryllis, and then I'll go to Marcy.
Good morning, Martin, and thank you for your inspirational presentation. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, all right, because I'm getting very chopped images. So I'm interested in
Oops. Dropped it there,
and
yeah.
giving, because can you hear me?
It is chopping a bit now, yeah.
You're dropping out. While we're waiting for Amaryllis's bandwidth to improve, Amaryllis, you want to try once more?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead. Ask your question.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. My question was related to fundraising.
There's too many dropouts we're having trouble with.
Do you want to? Can she type it?
Yeah. Go ahead and chat it to everyone.
Put it in the chat.
Amaryllis, and we'll go now to Marcy. You've been trying to get a question in. Go ahead. I can't unmute you.
Okay, how's that?
That's good.
Okay. Martin, thank you very much. Thank you, Diana, for letting me know about this, because it's quite interesting. As I mentioned earlier, I belong to a younger club and a club with a very different kind of culture. I have to say this, I have been in Rotary 26 years, so am rather old school about feeling like Rotary is a participatory sport, that you have to show up. It was interesting listening to you and how your club, like you do this 10-pound monthly. I couldn't quite tell, like do you meet every week? Do you meet once a month?
Fortnightly.
Okay.
Every 2 weeks.
Okay. So, my club, a lot of young people, a lot of people who do tremendous amounts of traveling for their careers. And while, in fact, we do certainly encourage this whole concept of Rotary as a participatory sport, there could be weeks where there are, out of a 32, 3, 4 member club, 6 of us show up and it's because people are traveling. Now, the problem that I have is I know where all those people are, generally speaking, although they don't have the same commitment to meeting every week that I do. But when a visitor comes, what they see is this small group of people and they think. So I'm curious how, if you tend to have better participation because you're meeting every other week, or if there's something else you're doing that we could do.
Yeah, so our club chartered with 20 members. Being in the city, that's changes quite a lot. A lot of people will leave to go to London. And we still have a high number of recruitment, but most of our sort of people that do leave are leaving because of jobs moving. So I'd say on average, we've actually got a commitment where we meet to have 12 people there at minimum. We pay for 12 meals no matter what. So we've very much strive to sure we have 12 people there every time. Right. Otherwise, we do make a loss. And that helps us sort of drive to bring in guests. On an average basis, I'd say half of the people at our meeting are guests.
Okay.
Yeah, which is very uncommon. I happen to find that most, like, I'd say about 8 members turn up, so about half turn up, and then the other 8 might turn up, I guess, that people have brought along or might be visiting. So we usually do have 14 to 16 there on a fortnightly basis, but only half of that is our members. Like I said, a lot of them do travel, and that's where most of them are away half the time. And so, and like we found out in the visioning process that people really want interesting speakers. More than anything, that like if they're going to commit to being somewhere, they want an interesting speaker to speak on a topic relevant to what we're doing, or something that can be inspirational to something we're going to do in the future. And whilst we only meet fortnightly, we do have like a council meeting for our club council on an off week once a month. And any projects are usually organized outside of the meeting, just to make it, because we don't have enough members to have sort of full committees, that if there is a project being run, it's usually 3 or 4 people doing that. And they'll just organize that via email or sit down somewhere outside on a Sunday just to hammer it out. So that a lot of the actual organization doesn't happen at the meeting. Maybe the first 5-10 minutes we do, but usually it's a speaker relevant to what we're doing, or an event that we're running.
So am I still unmuted?
Yes,
No?
you still muted
Oh, yeah.
quickly, and then Amaryllis is back in.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make a comment about, so I've spent a lot of time dealing with membership issues over the years in a variety of different roles. And one of the things that happens with most Rotary clubs is that they are not intentional on membership strategies. And the interesting thing that I found in this club is, and I'm the membership chair, I don't have to be intentional. We also have 3, 4, 5 people walk in every night or every meeting. And it's like, but it's, it's young people. And I think your generation is much more interested in joining and doing stuff as long as it's effective.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, our club doesn't match up with what half the things I say. Like, it'd be very interesting for me to start a new club, but I'm there to help forge this club, because like our name Trailblazers sort of stems from our willingness to do different things, and our club members are very viable in doing that. They're happy to change, and our club's evolved every year to something different from what it was previously. And I think we can get somewhere between. I've looked at a few different clubs in the Netherlands that have what they're called, meetings where they have a sit-down meeting, but it's also broadcast on hybrid clubs. And we're looking to sort of move towards somewhere like that, where we've got people that can make commitments sitting down every fortnight, but also people that are going to join online similar to an e-club, and find somewhere in the middle there.
All right. Thank you. Amaryllis, you're going to try again here.
Yes, let's try again right now. First of all, thank you, Martin, for your very inspirational talk, and you have a great energy, and I can relate to that very well. So my question is in regards to giving and fundraising. For me, giving and fundraising has to be a major part of the Rotary experience. And so I would be interested in knowing 2 things. First, what are your favorite fundraising activities or those of your age group? And second, how do you address giving if finances are sometimes an obstacle to join a Rotary Club? How does your members, your fellow Rotarians, address giving in a way that really allow you to carry out big projects or meaningful projects, or, how do you go around that?
Yes, so we've done a few different things. As a part of our meetings, the meal costs £17, but we charge 20 no matter what. And so every single person that's coming is adding £3 to our funding. So we're that's tied into the whole having fun whilst raising money type thing. So even just at the basics of our meetings, we're raising money just by sitting down and having dinner together. our best fundraising ones have so far been like curry nights at our different Indian restaurants, and a few different sort of same sort of practice of having a large dinner event have been our highest fundraising. Nowhere near the sort of levels that you get in the United States where you're raising tens of thousands of dollars at events. The rate of raising money in the UK is a lot lower, even for events that are a large scale. We're trying to sort of learn how to do what they can do in the United States here in the UK, and emulate that.
So how high is given to the Rotary Foundation in terms of importance to your club?
Yeah, I've made it to a match essentially. Well, we had a goal of raising £2,000 for organisations that weren't foundation, and £2,000 for foundation. We did it for 1,000 last year, so I decided to double it this year. So far, we've raised about £2,500 for outside organisations, which 1,200 of that is going to the Hurricane Irma appeal. We've had some really good donations from local people that have wanted to donate anonymously through Rotary, so that's been really good. We've raised about 200 for foundation, but our charter night is mainly used to raise money for foundation. And we just try and keep it at the same, like 50-50 split between outside organizations and Rotary Foundation. But inherently in the UK, foundation is overlooked. I'm not sure why. I think it's down to people don't see what foundation does because it's so wide a variation. It doesn't have a sort of, young people don't know what polio is. So it's sort of irrelevant, polio, in a sense, even though it's a big thing what we're doing. People just don't have a clue because they don't see it anymore. So they don't really see what does foundation do because it does so many different things. It's not like water aid where you know exactly what water aid does. You don't know what foundation might do.
Wayne has her hand up. Wayne?
Good morning. Thank you, Martin, for excellent presentation. I just wanted to mention that there are some Rotaract clubs in Ethiopia, about 6 of them, and large groups, and they're very active. Even though, as PP Rogers said, they usually think in the Rotary meetings they're used to run around errands and things, they also know that they can get help from their clubs. So they really do run fundraisings that amounts funds that are matched by the sponsoring clubs. And they're very active. They do a lot of local projects. What they cannot do with the money, maybe they go physically and do some work with elderly, with water cleaning areas and schools. And what happened was the meetings, even though whenever they go to the sponsoring club, they are sponsored for the meals, they don't have to pay by their clubs. As they graduate and started joining Rotary, they found out that it was a lunch meet. Most of the Rotary clubs meet for lunch in expensive hotels like the Sheraton and the Hilton. They cannot afford it, so they founded their own clubs, all the young people. I would say the average age is about 30. These are all former Rotaracts. They meet evenings, which is more convenient for them. They're starting up their profession, that they cannot take lunch hours, long lunch hours, so they have an evening club, which is not dinner, but just a reception type of very inexpensive. And they're doing extremely well in this young club. They, of course, are supported again by the traditional older clubs, but they do their own fundraising. They have other things that interest the youth and the Rotaracts, and they're very active. And maybe, with your permission, I'll take your contact information from PP Roger, and when I go there, we can invite you to speak to them. It's very inspirational what you do, and they'll be inspired to know there's a young president, even though they have a young president also, but he's in his 30s. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I think like what you said about how they form their own club is the way that they have to go, essentially. But like you said, the majority of clubs do meet at lunchtimes in expensive hotels, and even if you don't have a meal in the evening, it's hard to actually, that's one thing we found, it's really hard to find a venue that will either have you for free or low cost if you're not having food, especially in a city. I know the Rotary Club that's why they're getting based at universities, is because they can get the university facilities for free to meet, even if they don't have a meal. But that is the way they have to go, is to sort of form their own clubs. But they shouldn't be left to do that. They need the sort of help there and the encouragement to do that themselves. But yeah, take my details as well. That's fine if Roger's got those.
Any other questions? Let's see. Diana, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, John. Thanks very much, Martin. I'm really interested in what you have to say about Rotaract, because I've been trying to beat this drum for quite some time. I don't know if the statistics have improved, but a couple of years ago, the statistics were that 5% of Rotaractors joined Rotary, which is an inexcusable percentage. So there are two questions. One is, has your club considered, and I don't even know if any club has, now that Rotaractors can be members of Rotary as well as members of Rotaract, do you know of clubs, or is your club considered taking them on, with a reduced cost, with that purpose in mind, so that you've got dual members, and perhaps, with one particular Rotaract club, dual members, so that then the transition is seamless? Has that been mooted at all?
It's been discussed, and like you said, it's one thing to sponsor someone, but to have a reduced cost has been quite difficult, especially in the UK, because of having RIBI. The extra costs that having the administrative level has means that you can't just deduct it. I don't know what the average sort of cost for membership at the moment is just for RI dues, but I believe it's like around $3 to $4. And that's as low as you could probably get it to go. But having in the UK, if you have to add an extra $3 for RIBI, and then any sort of admin fees for running your own club, you're looking at the similar price to being a full-blown Rotarian. If there was some way we could have RI reduce membership fees for Rotaractors that want to be transitioning, that's something we could probably consider, but have to obviously get passed by RI.
Yeah, I don't think that RI are on that bandwagon, because they need the money. But because that led me to my second question, which was, given that you keep your dues as low as you do, then is that not a big challenge for you? Because while you do have RIBI, we have district, which is pretty much the same thing. And we pay our dues through to the district as well as, so it's a worldwide issue. But how do you come up with that, presumably a shortfall between what your members can pay and what you pay as dues? How do you manage that?
Well, so far, since we've started 5 years ago, we've charged, like I said, £10 a month, and that, I think when it first started, there was about £7 of actual dues in that £10, and we were getting an extra £3 to the club. Every year that's increased, we've just decreased that little £3 we were getting to the club to now it's down to pennies. Next year, our £10 a month will have to go up to meet dues. We don't know whether we're going to increase it every year or just put it up to £15, and then we can keep it at 15 for a longer period of time. But that's something we've got to discuss, because I know I've seen in the proposals to RI that there's one there to not increase membership fees. So it'd be interesting to see how that one goes when it gets to the vote. But I know that our club's put forward to vote for that, and let them sort of tighten their budget rather than just putting the fees up every year.
Joe Roth.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Martin, for your presentation. My question is geared, and it might be a little difficult for you to address this because you may not have the experience, but when dealing with a lot of older clubs that have a high percentage of an older population, how do we get them to accept and how do we introduce younger members to that group and have them be incorporated so that we avoid what's inevitable, which is that club dying out. So it's a real challenge, and it's something that we face throughout the Rotary world.
Yeah, excellent question.
Yeah, here in the UK, I know especially in our district, but I think throughout the entirety of both the UK and Ireland, actually, they've sort of accepted that some of those clubs are just going to die out. And they've now launched what's being called Rotary 2, which is a full-out replacement of all these extra clubs where they're starting clubs in the same location as these clubs that are refusing to change or can't attract new members, letting them die out. And then a new club is already there waiting with a 30 to 50 sort of age range, or 30 to 60 or whatever it might be. And it's very different. Like I said, they're meeting in pubs and coffee shops and bringing costs down. So there's sort of the replacement policy or theory that they're going on. But my advice I've been giving to older Rotary clubs is that just try and bring someone in that's 10 years younger than you. And that's the best you can do. Bring someone in that's 10 years and slowly you might be able to reduce the age and keep it alive. Don't try and bring someone in that's 30 or 40 into a club that's got an average age of 75, because there's just too big a difference there, and the work's different and sort of the schedules are different. It just causes conflict. So try to bring someone in that's 10 years younger or even 5 years younger. And if everyone does that, then your age slowly decreases.
Great ideas.
Amaryllis had her hand up, then President Leslie, I think it'd probably be time for you to.
Yeah. I am going to go on Joe's question. Right in the middle of what happens. So I'm there and not in the younger. Oh, I am curious about what you think about a responsibility for the younger generations to also make an effort to get closer to the older generations and not just place all this weight on a generational gap because of you're old that you always did it this way. So it would be beautiful that to see also the younger people trying to reach out in a way that could also be more understanding of these dynamics. I'm not talking about you particularly because it is obvious that you have this understanding, but all I hear one and time again is that the older people don't make an effort with the young people. But what about the other side?
Yeah,
and the other way around?
Has to go both ways. Thank you, Amaryllis.
Yeah, that's okay, go on, John.
Well, it's just Martin finish up, and then Leslie.
Yeah, sure. Just quickly on that. Yeah, right to say that young people need to sort of be looking at the older generation, how they can sort of make moves to build that gap. I think it has to sort of come from a Rotary Club to begin with in some sort of form, whether it be like mentoring or even just networking would be a big help. A lot of the sort of, especially in our club, a lot of older generations, they know a lot of people that are very helpful when you're starting out in business or anything. And just introducing people and just talking to them. Like it's not so much that they don't like each other. It's just that they might not know that they've got something in common. And so just having some sort of interaction where they can actually build a rapport and know each other a bit better will help bridge that gap. And then the young people will be able to do that.
Okay, so Rotarians, we are at 8:57 my time in Jamaica. So I'm going to ask our AG, who have missed so much. Amaryllis, I'm so happy to see your face. You cannot even imagine. So can you lead us through the 4-way test, please? And thank you, Martin. You have been such an inspiration. I'm so proud of you. And we will be leaning on you for some advice as to how to get younger people in our club as well.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Can you hear me? I see everybody froze. Can you hear me?
Go through with
Yep.
All right. Super. All right, my fellow Rotarians of the say or do. Is it the truth
Is it
It's
true?
true.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it
Is it
fair
fair
to
to all
All
concerned?
concerned.
Will it bring goodwill and better friendships?
will it build
Goodwill,
Goodwill and better friendship?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be
Be beneficial to all concerned?
And IPP
And it
Paul,
absolutely will be fun.
It will.
Absolutely will be fun.
And try not to wear socks.
And it's the Rotary around the world.
Here's the Rotary around the world.
Right around the world.
Rotary around the world.
Rotary around the world.